Welcome to Nerds and Friends. Today we're joined by author Jeff Chapman. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Of course, we're happy to have you. And I just got to say, I loved your Amazon author profile talking about your day job as a software engineer, and then your love of cats. And those are things I vibe with real hard. And then, of course, your career as an author. And I'm a fantasy author as well. So I love that you explore in so many books, ghost stories and the paranormal and fantasy. And so I just want to jump in and ask you about your career experience as a writer, and like what are the highlights of that career so far?
Well, I started out writing short stories and trying to sell them to magazines, and I
Nice.
had a bit of success there. But that's a really hard road because you write stories and you send them off and wait for the rejection letter, and then you send it out again. And
Yeah,
so I was happy to move into writing novels and self-publishing them.
that's awesome. Very cool. Well, for those who are listening in, we have a lot of authors who listen to our podcasts. What are some of the pros and cons of self-publishing, in your opinion?
Well, you have total control over everything. So, I have control over who's the editor that I hire. I have complete control over the cover that's used for the
Nice.
book, and then I own everything. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
So yeah, so then you can, any adaptations or future things, you have full say of how that goes and what
exactly,
contracts you enter into, right?
exactly.
That's fantastic. Well, tell us about your most recent book. Let's hear about it.
My most recent book is Sniggert's Revenge, and this is a YA fantasy adventure about a young man who, on a dare from his brother, goes into a barrow
Oh,
and he finds a bit of treasure there. He's attacked by this bird-like creature while he's in the barrel, but he manages to escape barely. And he decides he's going to use this treasure to try to woo a girl that he's interested in.
uh,
And it doesn't go according to plan, and everything goes downhill after that point. And for the rest of the novel, he's trying to clean up the mess that he's created.
that sounds
And there's a
really
couple trips to
interesting.
ferry. Yeah, there's a couple trips to ferry in there. So and there's a walking corpse at one point. So
Wow, that sounds exciting. That's really
yeah, it's
cool.
one bad thing after another for quite a while.
That's yeah, a lot of good stories are like that. No, that sounds really intriguing. Where it's it's kind of the main character trying to like put out fires and clean up his mess. That sounds really
Yes.
intriguing. Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
there'll probably be a sequel to it because the story's not quite ended.
Oh,
When
nice.
I end this story, there's still more to go. So there'll
That's
probably be a
awesome.
sequel to this one.
And on your on your Amazon profile, you have a couple of series already. So, what's kind of your approach to like what do you focus on when you're doing a sequel to one of your books? Like, what's important in your opinion to have in that sequel?
Well, let me show you how I right now my series, The Merless Tales. This is the first one,
Oh,
which
nice.
wasn't the first one that I wrote. So
Oh,
this is the
interesting.
first novel that I wrote for The Merless Tales.
Ooh,
Um,
Into the Witchlands, great title.
yes, thanks. So when I was writing Cat She, which is the name of this first one, I kept making references to something that had happened in the past, which was the Great Contagion.
Okay.
Um, so I decided I needed to know something about it. So I had to write a book. So I had to write something about it. I was going to write a story, but it ended up being a novel twice as long as the previous novel.
Oh,
So
that's epic. That's awesome.
yeah. So Cat She is going to have two more books associated with it to finish the story. Let's see, what did you ask me about series?
Well, I was curious about like what your approach is to writing sequels. Because
Okay.
like for me, I've self-published two books, and one of them I leave open-ended, and I intend to write a sequel. So I'm kind of interested in like what your approach has been to writing sequels to your books, or
Okay.
prequels in this case.
Okay. Um, I'm pretty much a pantser. I don't outline anything. I just kind of have a general idea of how the story is going to go. And
Wow.
usually it changes over time as I'm writing it because I find I come up with a lot better ideas while I'm writing. I
Yeah.
guess I have the creative juices running at that point. So I found that in most of my, especially my novels, I get to the end of like the story arc for the main story, but there's still pieces left over that can
Yeah.
go on to the next novel. So it's the sequels are going to be picking up where we left off, but continuing on with things that we haven't resolved. So,
Okay, that's awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, that's a great approach where you're planting seeds to an arc in the first book and then continuing it on in the sequel, so it feels like a natural extension of the story. I think that's a really smart
yeah,
approach.
yeah. I find that as I'm writing the stories, I'll come up with an idea that I hadn't had any idea of beforehand. I'll just go ahead and drop it in, and then I'll find later in the story that, oh, I can go back and use that. Wow, that looks like I'm
Nice.
really smart or something. I just dropped them in and used them later.
That's really cool. Yeah, we've interviewed a lot of authors on this podcast, and I think you're our first like full pantser. We have a lot of people who are like, well, I outline a bit and then I kind of do some pantsing as I'm going, but that's really fascinating. That's really cool.
Yeah, I've tried outlining, but I just don't have the temperament for it. Then I find I have to throw it out anyway because I come up with a better idea. So
That's awesome that you can steer it as you go and let the
yeah.
muse work with you. That's great. So what's like your favorite part about the writing process? Like what are some of your favorite things about it?
I guess just crafting the initial story. Um, the beginning of the novel is a lot easier than when you get to the middle. I hate being in the middle because then I feel like I'm never gonna finish this. It's just gonna keep going
Right.
on and on forever.
Oh yeah. Act
So
2 is always the hardest.
yeah, so there's the doldrums, you get stuck in the middle, and then when you get to the end, that's a great feeling when you can finally finish something. It's like, wow, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, it's an amazing feeling. So how old were you when you published your first novel?
My 40s, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. So you
Yeah.
you already had a successful career as a software engineer, and well, what prompted you to fulfill that dream and publish your first book?
I started writing when I was in high school.
Oh, nice.
Then I took creative writing classes when I was in college, and I started off working as an editor.
Oh, cool.
So, and then I had an interest in computer science beforehand when I was in high school. Um,
Nice.
but I went with a history degree in college and graduate school. Then I worked as an editor for a while, and opportunities came up as we started doing more electronic publishing. So I went back to school and got a software degree
Oh, wow.
from college. Fortunately, the company paid for most of it, so that was
Nice.
helpful. And
That's
then I
awesome.
moved on to a different job within the company as a software engineer.
That's really
So
cool.
there I had this writing background all along the way. What did you ask me again? I'm sorry, I got off
No,
track.
you've answered the question.
Oh,
That's really
okay.
cool how your careers are intertwined with writing and software engineering. That's really
Yeah,
fascinating.
and actually, software is all about communicate. It's all about syntax and
Yeah.
language actually, just a
I
different type of language.
Yeah, I've taken some classes on computer science, and it's not my wheelhouse, but I very much liked how precise you have to be and how logical you have to make everything connect. So I think that I totally understand how someone who's an excellent writer like yourself would be a good software engineer. So that's really cool.
Yeah, you have to be very, very precise with the language.
Yes, yes.
It will do exactly what you tell it to do.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, what's been the most challenging thing as a self-published author, and what's been the most fulfilling?
Most challenging thing I think is marketing,
Yeah,
um, trying to find an audience. Um, I still haven't mastered that.
me neither.
I've taken classes, I've watched stuff on the web about how to do it, and
Yeah,
I'm still struggling with that. So that's the most challenging and difficult part.
yeah. Yeah, it's like it's crazy because we have so many tools as self-published authors with social media, but like still actually having your books like hit new people outside of your own personal network is really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting reviews is also really very
Yeah,
frustrating.
I've noticed that as well. It's yeah. I've only been published since December of 2021, so I'm still it's only
Okay.
been 6 months. And yeah, I think I've got 6 reviews total on my 2 books. It's a challenge.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. But so with your most recent book, I wanted to jump back to that. Tell us kind of you mentioned your main character, how he finds this treasure in a barrow and has to or tries to use it to woo a girl he's interested in, and it kind of blows up in his face. Tell us a little. I'm just a little curious of more about the character and like what his personality is like, and kind of how you came up with him.
Okay. Um, Most of my novels start off with like a situation. In this case, it was he was playing checkers with a friend in this town. So the time period, it's a fantasy, so it doesn't really correspond to a particular time period. But it's
Right.
kind of like an 18th century kind of time period, but without guns.
Cool.
They don't have any guns.
Nice.
So anyway, he's playing checkers with his friend, and they're playing a type of checkers where they gamble as well. So they have like 5 penny pieces that they put on the kings, and they make kings when they're playing checkers. So
Okay.
this girl walks past and it distracts him and he ends up losing. And then when he's walking home with his brother's complaining because they were going to buy some food with the money he won, but of course he didn't win any money, so they didn't buy any. And that's what led to the eventual dare to go into the barrow.
To try to find money for food.
Well, it was just to prove to his brother that he wasn't a coward. That he'd go in there. His background of his family is they used to be gentry, but his grandfather lost all the money gambling on horses, I think. So now they just live on a farm, and his father works as an accountant for someone. So they've dropped quite a bit socially. And the girl he's interested in wooing actually lives in the manor house that he would have been living in if the family hadn't lost all the money. So he has this strange idea that if he can woo her and marry her, he can get back.
Kind of restore the family legacy.
He can restore the family.
Oh, that's a really cool, like, I want to read the book now. That's fantastic. I love that. That's really cool.
And the other side of this is the Sniggard, who is the guardian of the barrow.
Okay.
He was a warrior for the king, an ancient king, and they somehow changed him into this kind of undead creature that can live until they all come back. And he's supposed to guard all the treasure in the barrow and not let any of it be taken by anyone.
Okay.
If he does that, then he'll be, in the afterlife, he'll be the chief warrior for the king. It's a great honor for him. So he has a lot of reason not to let anything be stolen.
So is he kind of pursuing the main character as the story goes, trying to get that treasure back?
He's pursuing the treasure. He's going after the treasure.
Okay. That sounds like a great antagonist where his motivation is like to achieve this high honor.
Yeah.
And the main character is kind of like, conflicting with that. That's really cool.
Thanks.
That sounds awesome. Well, and has that book been released or is it upcoming?
Oh, it's been released.
Fantastic. We'll put the link to it in the description so people can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I released that last fall.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So, and right now I'm working on another novel in the Merlis Tales.
Nice.
So, and it's set in like a 19th century era. With the Merlis Tales, it's about a young girl whose spirit is banished to the body of a cat. And the magic that caused that gives the cat extremely long life, like thousands of years. So
that's
my
cool.
idea is that I can write stories with this character forever.
That's fantastic.
Constantly have new sets of human people.
That's fun. That's really cool. I like that. I gotta ask, how many cats do you have?
I have 3 cats right now.
That's awesome.
We've had as many as 4. We have 3 right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've got 2, and I have to resist the temptation to not just add like 5 because I love cats. So that's awesome. I love that idea of like a sentient cat that lives thousands of years and has all these adventures. That's a really cool concept.
Thanks.
That's awesome. How many books are in that series?
Right now I have 2 novels in the series and a short story.
Nice.
And I'm working on the 3rd right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have ideas for a lot more.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll put a link to your author page in the description so everyone can find all your books and everything, because
Okay,
these sound really great. Like, I can't wait to check them out myself. It's really cool.
thanks.
Yeah. What can you walk me and your viewers through like what kind of is your daily routine for writing? Because I know a lot of people who listen into the podcast, they are also balancing a full-time career with their writing. So I'm curious what your kind of daily routine's like for completing so many books.
Okay. Um, I'm not a morning person. I'm a night person. So, you hear all these stories about authors that get up at 4 in the morning and write for several hours.
It's not me
That's
either.
not me. I've tried to get up early and write. My brain just doesn't function at that point.
Yeah,
So I write in the evening, usually for about an hour or so.
nice.
Sometimes I'll spend the time editing as opposed to actually creating new material.
Totally.
But I try to do something every day with the writing. So you
Nice.
just keep plugging away, and every day you're moving toward the final goal. So
That's
keep
awesome.
plugging away, you'll get there.
Yeah, no, I've heard that consistency is really important, and that's something
Yeah.
I've striven for since I started taking my writing more seriously. Because I actually had the honor one time of meeting Stan Lee before he passed away, and he said that for as long as he can remember, he's written every day, even if it's something he's not going to intend to publish. And he said that really helped him. So since then, I've been trying to implement that myself. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
pretty much every professional writer you hear about, they say the same thing. I think Stephen King says he writes every day. And
Nice.
Ian Koontz writes every day. So
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, I had a quick question that we'd like to ask authors on the podcast. If your main character of your most recent novel, who you've talked about and who sounds really intriguing, if he had to go on a road trip with the main character of the last book you read or the last TV show you watched, who would that be and how would it go down?
let's see, I'm trying to think, what's the last book I read? I think it was I think the last book I read was a mystery. It was a Ian Rutledge mystery.
Okay.
Oh man, I don't think they would get along at all.
Really?
If you've read the Ian Rutledge mystery novels, he's a World War I veteran who's dealing with shell shock, and he's a Scotland Yard detective.
Oh,
so he's very, very serious.
Yeah, very,
the
very
character
grim.
From my last book is like a 16, 17-year-old teenager with that.
Yeah, I can see both parties being unhappy in that situation, stuck in a car together.
Yeah. I don't think they'd have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, they sound like they have pretty different lives they've led.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That sounds like a cool mystery story, though, with a World War I detective like for Scotland Yard. That sounds pretty cool. I'll have to check those out. Ian Rutledge mysteries. Yes. Okay, I'll add that to my long list of things I need to read. the ever growing list. That's awesome. Well, and actually, that prompts another question I just thought of. What like how often do you read as well to supplement your writing and to get inspired and to keep your skills sharp?
I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Nice.
I get them from the library for free.
Cool. Nice. That's the way to do it.
So that's allowed me to plow through a lot of books I normally wouldn't have had time to read.
Yeah.
So I'm reading or listening to a book almost every day.
That's awesome.
So.
And do you feel that's important to your writing as well?
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially to listen to or read a wide variety of authors and genres. Yeah. So you get exposed to a lot of different styles.
That's cool.
And I think pretty much every author can teach you something.
Yeah, that's a great perspective when you're going into a book of like, what can I learn from this writer? I love that. That's really cool. Well, Jeff, this has been a wonderful interview. Is there any message you want to give to our viewers or any kind of send off besides check out your books, which there'll be a link below this podcast for everyone to check out?
Thanks for listening to me. It's been really great talking to you, and I look forward to listening to more of the interviews you've done.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been a great interview. I've learned a lot. This is awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Very cool. Thanks for listening to Nerds and Friends.